Is it?
No,
would you advise a
client?
client?
Have an idea.
Would you advise a client to personally attack a prosecutor like this? I mean, it's dehumanizing, Mr. Tacopina.
You know, Chuck, I know. I'm not his social media consultant. I think that was an ill-advised post that one of his social media people put up, and he quickly took down when he realized the rhetoric and the photo that was attached to it. But that being
You're
said,
only referring to the baseball bat. He didn't take down the other rhetoric. Wait a minute. You're referring to the baseball bat thing, which of course was featured in the New York Post cover. New York Post thought it was a pretty rough hit, and there was a doubt. I mean, here's the thing: we went through January 6th, so it's not like a possibility that Trump's rhetoric creates violence. It's already happened once. Are you not concerned this could happen?
Well, I'm not accepting that proposition that his rhetoric created violence. I think violence was on the way that day. But I'm not here to discuss that, Chuck. I'm not going to defend or condemn anything regarding social media. It's not what I do. I don't have anything to do. I'm not a Trump PR person. I'm a litigator and a lawyer. And I'm talking about this case in Manhattan, which is a case that would not be brought for anyone other than Donald Trump. When we seek to use a prosecutor's office to politicize and weaponize a campaign, that's what's troubling to me. And if you look at the facts here, just look at the facts for a second. You have two crucial distinctions. One, this was personal funds. Can you imagine the amount of people that would be baying for Donald Trump's scalp had he used campaign funds to pay for what they would call a personal expense? They would be going ballistic, and they would have a right to be going ballistic because the standard, the law, Chuck, and this is really important, the law is this, that if you use personal funds and you're involved in a campaign, the bright line test is, would you have expended that money? Would you have made that payment irrespective of the candidacy, irrespective of the campaign? And the answer to that question is simply yes. This was a personal civil settlement that's done every day in New York City. This had nothing to do with campaign finance laws. And members of the SEC have come forth, Chuck.
I mean, we are 30 years removed from the standoff that culminated in a tragedy on April 19th, and that date in turn served as the sort of motivation for the worst domestic terrorism attack that we had in the form of Timothy McVeigh's attack on the federal building in Oklahoma City. So there's a lot of symbology to this place and this anniversary. And while it may not be known to most of your viewers, even to Donald Trump, it is absolutely well known to violent anti-government extremists. So when you have somebody like the former president choosing to launch his campaign by going to this place, having spent the last several weeks and months engaging in very inflammatory rhetoric and postings online, telling people, his supporters, that he's their retribution, making these dark references to violence if he's charged, I think you are creating a environment which does nothing but encourages extremist elements to engage in violence going down the line.
Yeah. So you have Trump's recent social posts about the hush money investigation. You have the death threats to Manhattan DA AlvinBragg. So give me a sense of what the FBI's main concern is today. Do you think, given your mention of Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, are there likely specific individuals that it's paying attention to?
Well, I think the biggest threat that is out there in terms of being able to understand what is going on are lone individuals or small groups of individuals, not larger organizations which are known, which the FBI has the ability to, and other law enforcement has the ability to investigate, develop sources within those organizations to know what they're doing. A greater threat occurs to the one-off, potentially mentally unstable people who become self-radicalized and decide to go and buy, multiple firearms or create explosive devices, but decide to engage in violence outside of any sort of formal structure. So as a law enforcement agency, and whether that's the FBI, whether it's state or local police, trying to get ahead of that is enormously difficult because in many cases, the people who are individually radicalized don't themselves know that they're going to be radicalized until they hear a speech, until they read something online and something snaps and they decide to pursue violence. So I think in terms of the challenge, that is one of the largest challenges facing law enforcement today.
Breaking news out of Pennsylvania, where officials say at least 2 people are dead after an explosion right there at a candy factory. This video capturing the moment of that powerful blast, and right now 5 people remain unaccounted for. It happened at the R.M. Palmer Company facility in West Reading, about 50 miles outside of Philadelphia. CNN's Polo Sandoval is following the story for us. So, Polo, the search for survivors continues at this hour. Paint the picture for us. What's happening there?
And Fred, overnight, a positive sign of hope as authorities in West Reading announced just a few moments ago that an individual was pulled alive from the rubble overnight. However, 5 people, according to authorities on the ground, still remain missing, and authorities confirming that at least two people are dead. The mayor there in East Reading saying that previous reports from Pennsylvania emergency management officials that as many as 5 people dying are, quote, inaccurate. They're still trying to find out more about that discrepancy. But again, 2 people, according to the local mayor, confirmed dead here as the search continues for a possible cause. No risk to people near the factory, according to authorities right now. And as we mentioned, the cause still unknown. But that what we are hearing again from Phil Wirt, who's on the local borough council, is that an individual was pulled alive overnight. Here's why he explains how that search is continuing with an incredible sense of urgency at this hour.
Someone was found alive that was, in rubble and not knowing whether or not they were going to live or die. And fortunately, we found that person, and they've got a second chance. Yep. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to find more.
R.M. Palmer, the chocolate factory affected here, been producing chocolates for decades, since 1948. Today, it's home to about 850 employees that produce and package sweets from its headquarters here in this small town. If you've had an iconic hollow milk chocolate bunny around Easter, chances are it came from R.M. Palmer. But just to give you a sense of the impact here, Fred, it employs just over 800 people. In a town of just over 4,000 people, so that is certainly a massive footprint in terms of the community, and it is why they're coming together. The mayor saying that emergency response workers continue to traverse this difficult task of recovery and assessing damage, and this will continue throughout the weekend. The mayor asking for prayers for not only the people that are in the rubble right now searching, but certainly for the families of those affected. Again, 5 still unaccounted for, 2 confirmed dead. Fred.
The war in Ukraine and new talk of nuclear weapons. Russian President Putin saying he's going to send tactical nuclear weapons to neighboring Belarus. ABC's Tom Sufi-Burge has more now from Ukraine.
This morning, Russia moving its nuclear weapon threat beyond its borders. President Putin on Russian state TV planning to deploy tactical nuclear weapons designed for limited strikes on the battlefield into Belarus, the regime there a long-time ally of Putin. The Russian leader claiming he's responding to the UK supplying Ukraine with depleted uranium tank shells. The Kremlin falsely claiming the shells contain nuclear components. The US monitoring the situation, a senior US official saying there are no indications Moscow is preparing to use nuclear weapons. Russia ratcheting up the rhetoric as brutal artillery battles in the east draining Ukrainian ammunition stocks. With President Zelensky telling a leading Japanese newspaper he cannot start a new offensive due to a lack of ammunition and arms. But positive signs for Ukraine in the brutal battle for Bakhmut. Western officials claiming Russia's offensive there stalling, a drone capturing the devastation in the city, with Ukraine's top commander, General Zaluzhny, saying the situation is being stabilized. Well, on that move by Russia to move nukes into Belarus, a senior Ukrainian official hitting back this morning saying the Kremlin has taken Belarus as a nuclear hostage.
President Biden has declared a major emergency in the state of Mississippi, where a tornado has left hundreds homeless. This is the moment on Friday when the wind barreled through a school in the area, and you can see that happening, captured on CCTV cameras just inside. And these are the latest drone pictures after the tornado struck, carving a path of destruction at 170 miles long. We know at least 25 people were killed in Mississippi and 1 person in Alabama. Dozens have been injured. Our North America correspondent Sophie Long reports from Mississippi. This is Rolling Fork, a small, close community in Mississippi. There is little left. They've lost loved ones, their homes, everything.
We get storms like bad rain or, probably high winds or something, but we never experience nothing like this where it can wipe out a whole town. Schools, children, parents, loved ones. It wiped out everything.
These girls said they came back to look for their belongings. They didn't find much. This is what remains of people's homes here in Rolling Fork. You can see washing machines, signs of a life that took place here before. The tornado struck in the middle of the night. Many people were sleeping. You can imagine just how terrifying that must have been. It meant many didn't hear the alerts.
Oh, man. Dear Jesus, please help them.
And seeing how the trees was blowing, and ran in the bathroom, closed the door, and jumped in the tub.
Francisco said the only warning he had was the noise of the wind, a sound that will haunt him forever.
It was terrifying, and it's like something that I never want to go through again. I don't want to experience that again in their life. But I made it through there, but it was scary.
He survived by sheltering in his bathroom, the only bit of the house that's still partially standing. There is some long-term resentment here. Mississippi is the poorest state in America, and some feel forgotten by leaders in the nation's capital.
Excuse my language, damn, you forgot about us? Just because we are the last in everything, you forgot about us? That's not right. That is very heart-wrenching, other than we lost everything, and we feel that we don't have support from the superior people also.
President Biden described what happened here as heartbreaking and said he and the First Lady are praying for those who had lost loved ones. But people here are asking for more than prayers and emergency relief. They want long-term support. Sophie Long, BBC News, Rolling Fork, Mississippi.